Okay, so first things first, you're going to want to have your two photos set up like I do, and then add a little marker and have your first photo fade out like I'm doing right here. You don't have to add a graph, but I prefer to use one just because it makes the transition a lot faster and smoother. So yeah, I'm just adding a graph right now. Now what I'm going to do is after I have that transition done, I'm going to hold down on each of my photos and group them, put them into one group. Now I'm going to go ahead and go on to Effects, Distortion and Warp, and type in circular radius, or circular ripple, my bad. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the frequency. Like I'm doing right here. Well, I actually changed it to 4.25, but 3.00 is the default. You're going to want to add a keyframe right there, and then one at the very end of your photo, and change it back to 1.00 or just 0, honestly. I did 0.86, but you guys can always do what you want, whatever you prefer, honestly. I just did it so you wouldn't be able to see her face is still warping, you know what I mean? So I just added that keyframe right where the second photo began to fade out. So now you're going to want to go ahead and add on a graph to that. You can do whatever kind of graph you want, fast, slow, it's whatever you prefer. Now you're going to want to go ahead, go back onto circular ripple, go back and then go to strength. You're going to want to add 3 different keyframes for this. The first keyframe is at the beginning, it's 0. The second one is right in the middle, right before the photo starts to fade out. And you're going to want to make that about, I would say, 0.180 or 0.181. So, same thing. And then one at the end, and you're going to want to set the strength right back down to 0. I did 0.003, but it's pretty much the same thing, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. You can add graphs if you want. I recommend you copy the graphs that I did because those are what worked best for me. You're going to want to change the phase to 2.37. Now go ahead and change the radius to the maximum radius that it can be. For me, that was 0.80. I just prefer it this way so you can see the transition a lot clearer. So now this is what it looks like so far. I'm going to add a couple graphs to touch everything up, and I would recommend you copy my graphs that I'm doing in order for it to look more smooth. But yeah, that's pretty much the sum of this transition in and itself. It's very simple if you think about it. It's just a few different keyframes on the circular ripple effect. Reminder that this is just me touching this up with my graphs. You don't have to follow along unless you would like to see the graphs that I use for each keyframe. Okay, my dog is literally sitting right next to me. He is playing with this new octopus squeaky toy he just got. So if you hear any of that in the background, please disregard that. Anyways, so basically for iOS, it's the exact same thing. I am doing this new thing where I'm showing you both how to do both iOS and Android tutorials for Alight Motion, or pretty much any editing app that is available on Android and iOS that I cover regularly on this channel. So yeah, it is literally the exact same steps, but I'm just showing you in iOS layout and Android layout as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. So you're going to want to go into your first photo, and where you have your marker at, add a keyframe to turn the opacity down. iOS is different. I don't need to add a ton of graphs and everything because, I don't know, I think it just manually does that, but I could be wrong. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and start out by doing that. Then I'm going to group my photos together. Then you're going to want to go on to Effects, Add Effect, and type in Circular Ripple. I accidentally typed that in wrong. I'm going to change my frequency to 4.25. Just like this. You could always adjust it to what you prefer, like after you're done at the end. I'm going to change it to 4.25. I'm going to add one keyframe at the very beginning of my photos, and then one at the very end, and I'm going to go ahead and make that keyframe just one. Sorry, I have my notes on these settings because I can't remember them at the top of my head. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do my little graph. You guys can make it a fast graph, slow graph, whatever you prefer. Like I say, it's always your guys' choice. So yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and go on to strength. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to go into strength. I'm sorry. I'm going to make my phase 2.37. That's just pretty much how much the ripple, like ripples, I guess you could say. Then I'm going to make my radius 0.80, 0.80. Now I'm going to go on to strength. I'm going to set it to 0. I'm going to add 1 keyframe. And this part is very important that you add your marker right before your next photo fades out. I'm going to add a keyframe right here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that to 0.181. Or whatever you guys prefer. You can make it more intense, make it less intense, whatever you want. And then on the second keyframe, I'm going to go to 0.0 -3. I forgot to mention it was -3 in the first one. That was my bad. So yeah. Now I'm just doing my graphs. Honestly, you don't have to add tons of graphs if you don't feel like it. It's just your preference. I also highly recommend going onto your real photos and adding tiles onto them so you don't see the background of either of the photos. So, yeah. And this is the final result. You could add a glow onto there if you want. I don't think I like the way this graph looks though, so I'm going to go ahead and change that right here. And yeah, that's how you do it on iOS. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, or comment down below any tutorial requests you guys may have. I wanted to announce, which I kind of announced right before I started the iOS version of this, I'm now doing tutorials both for Android and iOS users, so there's no complications or anything. So I'm going to have in the description the timestamps for each program or each device, I guess. If you need that specific tutorial, so I don't have to keep making different tutorials. I find it a lot more nicer. I would loved if I had those when I was first learning alight motion. So yeah, I love you guys. Bye!